Welcome everybody tonight. All those that are watching around the country, Australia, and of course here in the room. We welcome you to Tamaki Live, is it? All right. Okay. Used to be Apostles Academy, but we thought we'd just upgrade it a bit, take it Monday night into a bit more of some of the topics and the things that are affecting your lives. So many people today are struggling to make ends meet, aren't they? They can't even get a home. Home ownership is getting further and further out of reach. We're seeing unemployment rising again. In fact, inflation, some of the worst stats ever, that as in regard to people being able to have some happiness. And all of this, I believe we need to have a great return of optimism, don't you? You know, a feeling of buoyancy in the sense that you can trust your government. Wow. You can trust people around you, again. You can trust your employer, your workplace. And you can trust that the country is going to be able to serve you, meet your need, and you to your country. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some things tonight. I want to do it straight. I want to come as I usually do in my style. It's a little bit different to most because I believe I'm going straight to the point. A bit like Trump. I've been around a while though, so I haven't copied him. This is me, and I think this is the type of talk we need right now. There's a lot of people talking, but really we want action with the talk. So those that are talking, do they put action with their talk? Well, at least I know Brian Tamaki, he acts what he speaks. It's almost we do the action first and talk about it later. That's what I like. So I'm going to read a scripture. So welcome everybody. Those that are not Christians or who don't share my faith, that's fine. You're welcome to listen in, and don't think that I'm trying to impose or ram the Bible down your throat. It can't fit. It's too wide. Okay? Our book, and I'm not here to push our religion or anything else, but I do live a Christian faith that is compassion. It's passionate. It's compassionate. It is my life. Christ is the center of my world. So I'm very open about that. And I'd like to talk to some things about that in a moment. But I want to read one scripture, just one. We need it from the Bible. So take a seat. And we're all familiar with it. Some of you might not be. But the book called Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. It says, to everything. Nobody misses out. To everything. There is a season. Right? Summer, autumn, winter, spring. Those are seasons that you know in the natural. But there are seasons to life, and they are important. There's a season, and it says a time for every purpose under heaven. So you've got to understand that when something is in its season, when it's in its season, it bears fruit. When it's out of season, it doesn't bear fruit. There's some already keys that I'm dropping to you right now. That you know that you're in a season when something is flourishing, something is producing, something is going well for you. But you know you're not in your season, or your season's past, when something's not working anymore, when it's a shambles, when it's now getting worse instead of than better. Man, I'm thinking in my mind right now, I'm applying this to the government of this country right away. I don't know about you. You could be applying it to a lot of things. There are some things, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to be something interesting when I talk about how seasons and then the time. The timing's got to be right. Time means everything here. So let's go to verse 1. It says this. There's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck what is planted. Again, it's talking about something that needs to be planted and something that needs to be plucked out. Sometimes weeds need to be taken away. If you want to plant something good, you got to make sure you clear the ground and pull the weeds. But here's the next one I'm really interested in. Time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. Here's the next line. Keep going. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. Take it back a little bit, please, facility. Just let me take a few things out of here. Time to kill. You know what? We've lived through some killing seasons. I'm not just talking about wars. You know about that. There's wars going on still now around the world. But it's also about killing something that's had its time. It could be a way of practice of something that you're doing at whatever, in the workplace. It could be in the office. It could be in a sports team. It could be in Parliament. It can be anywhere in your life where you may have to kill something that you're holding on to, revering, almost worshipping it, to the point that it's no longer beneficial because it's dead. If the horse is dead, dismount. If the thing's dead, get off it. But that seems to be a very difficult thing for some people to do in organizations. When you've finished killing it, it's time to heal. I am very sure that I can say this safely, that over the country of New Zealand, around the world probably, we've been through some stuff. We've been through 6 to 7 years of hell. People have been ill-treated by their governments. Oppression, tyranny, dictatorship that's been acted out through governments, through the time of the pandemic, COVID-19. We all know about that. People lost a lot. They lost not only their jobs, their businesses, but they also lost a lot of things that are very valuable to their lives, like their mental condition, the state of health, your emotions. How many people are still suffering mentally and emotionally after the fact that your job was gone, or your business, or you went through some horrible things that were done to us and forced upon us? You know, that's evil. That's all it is, it's evil. And yet we don't realize that there are literally millions of people who need help, who need healing. I want to say right now, as this is on my other God side, I believe the healing that God can give you is probably your last chance after all of the visits to a doctor or prescriptions that you get from the doctors as well, or whoever you're seeing, psychiatrists and whatever. Sometimes you need to have a spiritual renewal. And it heals the soul. The wounded soul can take comfort. The fact is that when a man holds his spirit, a good spirit, sustains him through his sickness. I'm quoting a scripture, that your spirit, when it's strong, sustains you through sicknesses and all sorts of trouble. That's how I get through it. My spirit is strong. That will sustain me when I'm facing all sorts of challenges in life. And boy, have I faced some. I've faced up to some nasty people, hateful people. I've faced up to a horrible government, terrible media that tore us apart and lied about me and my family and my church and my work. We've faced also other challenges in life, you know, that were roadblocks on the way to your dream. But I've never given up, because my spirit has sustained me, will sustain you. So I'm talking to something that a lot of people don't know about. You might know about your mind, your mental state, and your emotional state. We're talking about the soul now. But I just want to say to you quickly, I want to speak life into your spirit. You've got a spirit. If you didn't know it, you have. That part of you that knows beyond even any type of information or education that your brain can give you. You've got a hunch, you've got a sense, you've got a feel. And I'm speaking right to you now. You sense that what I'm saying is true. You may not even like me, but you've got to admit I'm pretty good at what I do. At least I stand up. At least I speak up. At least I am with the people and hear the people. Not like politicians and I'm not hearing the people in this country. I hear the cry of the people on the ground and where they are in their families fighting to survive instead of thriving. I'm going to be talking about that soon. But your spirit, I pray, will come alive to this. Because if you're healed, then you can heal others. While you are not healed, you cannot heal others. And I know a lot of people in my country, you were damaged. Well, I speak healing to you, genuinely. Perk up, lift your chin, because I want to talk about this. It is our time. Right now, it's your time. That's what it says here. There's a season. I can see a season that I believe is closing down in this country in a lot of places that needs to stop. Their season is over. The season has come to an end. And I believe that Luxton, Seymour, Peters, Te Pati Māori, and talking about the Greens, and all of that era of political mess and garbage and rubbish, that's a season now that is over. Because you can tell it's a season that's over. And now there's a new season. There are people coming who are bringing massive change. These are the changes that they're going to bring to the world today. They're going to reintroduce again the ability for people to have voice, for people to have rights, for people to be able to feel free, for people to be able to live in their country and know that their country is not going to work against them but for them. New Zealand's a paradise, and yet it can be turned into a place that becomes the pits. I want to say to you, I'm a part of the group of people in this country who believe it's our time. We want to bring back the paradise. We want to bring back what's freedom. We want to bring back everything that we trust is going to keep its promises. We're going to bring back to the people, everyday working class people, they can have the confidence that if you have the right people in Parliament ruling and giving us the freedom to be able to do business, do our work, make our job without being overtaxed, without being overburdened by rules and regulations and bureaucracy, then if our country's freed up, then we can become the country we've always been. There has been a golden era in New Zealand, and I'll talk about that soon. But I want to say something else first. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about what's happened recently in America with Donald Trump and President Trump. I know you've heard this, but some people, I want you to understand this, because Donald Trump would have been probably not many people's choice of a president. Before he got where he is today, you wouldn't believe some of the history in his past, in his troubled past. And not many would have thought that Donald Trump would have come through to probably now being one of the greatest presidents of the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America. But listen to this. This is what God is saying. A season of career politicians. A season of ex-CEOs and ex-lawyers and ex-business people. And those who want to have a go at power. Those that are searching to try and find some expression for their weird ideologies. That's a season that's finished. And now you're seeing a new type of individual coming. Fresh from the tree, not out of the rotten barrel with all the rest of the apples. We are in a time now, if the people have a appetite of courage and to take a risk, New Zealand can flip the script just like that. We don't have to think that we're stuck with Labour or the Greens or Te Pati Māori or National. We're not stuck with those parties. We're not stuck with New Zealand First. We're not stuck with ACT. We're not stuck with these parties that people in New Zealand think that's the only options you've got. There are 5 million people in this country approximately. And I'm telling you, the best aren't in there. Definitely not the most courageous, because all of these guys have been cowards. They've never stood up. They couldn't do things to save not only themselves, but let alone a whole lot of people that needed them in a time of extreme lockdown and hurt and harm. So I want to talk to you about Donald Trump. When he went to stand for president, he believed with all his heart that he could do it. The thing that he had wasn't political nous. It wasn't political experience. You don't want people with political experience. That season is over. You don't want people who've come through political university and political studies. That's the worst you can get. They end up looking like Hipkins, Jacinda Ardern, Robertson and co. You don't want career politicians like Peters and Seymour and National Party and Labour that produce and they churn them out, and their buddies previously give their buddy a call overseas and say, you can finish your job, your merchant banking job, come over to New Zealand, we'll get you set up. Look at this. We'll get you set up to be the next Prime Minister. That's what Keys did to Luxon. And New Zealand fell for it. It looked like Keys. You all thought Keys was a great Prime Minister. He wasn't. None of them have been. Helen Clark wasn't. I'm sorry to tell you, you've allowed yourself to take a very poor options. There are better. So that season is over. See, Trump is not a political animal. He's not politicized. He's got common sense. That's common sense. That's something we've never had in our parliament since I've been around. That's a long time. For the last 30 or 40 years, there's not been common sense in that parliament. Honestly, you know the weird people that are in there and the stupid decisions they've made and the cock-ups they've made. And I've got a list here of the billions of dollars of wasted spending, and some of it has been fraudulent spending. It's right here. I've got it all. I may read it to you, maybe another time. And that's been going on for election after election after election. So the public of New Zealand have to do something too. You have to break your addiction to blue and red and your addiction to career politicians like Peters, Seymour, and the rest of them. In fact, 2026 means that if we are going to have our time, then the whole lot have to be swept out. And what's wrong with that? When a company or a business has been found to be wrong, or it has basically found itself short on what it needs to have or to do to be successful in its infrastructure, it takes it out. It removes it, eliminates it, and you start afresh. That's the best thing. Do not build on previous layers of failure. Don't build on previous layers of corruption, bureaucracy. See, when Trump came into politics, he needed to be ready for what he was going to do. Nobody would ever thought, and I want to put this fair and square to everybody that hears this, because this is regardless of whether you believe God or not, right? He had an incident in his life in the second term where everybody knows he had an assassination attempt on his life. We all know it nicked his ear. Now, we may all looked at it and thought, boy, he was lucky. But he knew himself it wasn't luck, it was God. And whatever you think, you cannot refute the man's own testimony. So you can go wild and say, oh, I'm going to switch off. Don't switch off. You need to listen. Because you've got to understand what's going to make this country successful from here on in. If you don't like what I'm going to say, then just look and maybe take it, bear it. But I'm telling you, the man's testimony, and he's been loud and proud to billions of people across the world. All of America knows. And they've realized that there was something absolutely insightful and revelatory. It was a moment of light to the billions of people around the world, what was missing in our politics. And it took a bullet because people would be so difficult to swallow this. And yet we had the lead up on the biggest platform or the stage in the world with the Olympic Games. Remember, who could forget in Paris Olympics about that display of sexual perversion and basically insulting Christianity. It was an insult to Christianity, no doubt about it. It was the last stroke of woke, far left, liberal, anti-Christian movements, governments, and people to try and destroy what has been the mainstay of successful governments, successful families, and successful countries, and that is the Christian faith. Now, Trump said he didn't know when to move. That movement he did, he said, was definitely set up and orchestrated by God by the mere fraction of millimeters to miss his brain. He knew God did it. And he made the statement loud and clear after that. He said, God saved me so I could save my country. Now, if anybody had two brain cells to rub together, you'd start seriously looking at that, at the most powerful man in the office of President of the United States and the most powerful country in the world, that God has to do it from the top to show every other political system and regime in every other country that if you decide to do politics without God somewhere in there, then you're going to end up having what we've had in the last 6 to 7 years. And he made it so clear that he actually put executive orders to actually have a White House faith office. A White House faith office where he would call in a respected Christian ministry to give advice to the White House and to be there as a thank you and a gratefulness that we actually had removed God so far, like we threw Jesus out of Parliament. Parliamentary prayer by Mr. Mallard himself. You've got to understand, these are all these actions and what these things that we did to our Christian faith has been the undermining of all that's good and right, prosperity, your well-being, safety, a future that's bright, families that will actually be happy. You can't be happy without God. Now, he goes on and he develops that, and then he sets up an executive order of a ministry to actually counter Christian bias, or the way that people have persecuted Christians. Now, I'm standing here as being a man of 5 years in the Christian ministry, building churches, building the Man Up ministry. Me and my wife and my family have been faithful to God and doing ministry for all those years, and yet I have never been in an occupation before I was what I am now. I have never been in an occupation that had so much discrimination and actual proactive persecution against it. So much attacks and assaults from the media and the setups from the media, the lies and the innuendo and the poisoning of the public's mind against me and my church, and for all the good works we do and for all the stuff that we've done without 1 cent of government funding. You've got to see something here. That this has all happened because of one simple fact. You can't do without somewhere in our politics bringing God back into it. Okay, this is what I'm saying, because it's our time right now, because Trump is a forerunner. He's putting pressure on you. He's putting pressure on political countries with political liberal left, far left, liberal, woke, right? They're still in it. They're still pro the LGBTQ. They're pro climate change. They're pro all of this other junk that we've been through. Now, I want to tell you, and it's very important to see this, because he says, I'm on a mission from God to save my country. Now, you got to understand, this man has been in 21 days in office. 21 days, and I understand in 21 days, it says here, and I've got these figures are right. Altogether, he has put executive orders in 21 days, 130 of them. 130, right? So this guy, he is basically somebody who comes in and makes what's present now history. With President Trump's coming into political power, he is basically smashed all types of perceptions and the way that people think that Parliament and politicians should be. He's absolutely smashed it. He's come from the outside, as I said. He's not from the inside. He has not come from political manipulation and career politicians now. He's come from the outside. And he's absolutely a prototype of what all governments and all future political systems for countries' successors should follow. If they don't, they've got to be removed. Because, as I bring it back to him, he said it, this is no more about me, and now and sort of doing all these things through secularism and having this thing about atheism and agnostic and all this sort of stuff. No, he says, God saved me to save my country. Do you want your country saved? Well, don't put people in there who don't confess Jesus Christ as God. Now, my country, through Mr. Luxon, Seymour and Peters, have brought every other type of pagan god into this country. Every foreign god you can think of has come in this country. It's like he's hell-bent. They all are bringing so many foreign gods into my country through multiculturalism, basically through immigrants. And there's a fine word in my Bible that says, God says himself, that you shall have no foreign gods amongst you. You shall not live among foreign gods. You shall not have them among you. Because then he says, everything works against you. You find yourself, whether you believe or not, working against God. You ain't going to win. It's difficult to try and get your country in a place where it should be and where everybody wants it to be, but you're trying to do it again without him. And when people get like this, when these politicians are having their last tantrum, their last kick of life before they die in 2026, then they've got to go so hard against everything that Trump is doing. They will kick hard against everything that he's doing executive orders toward. You know what I mean? So when he went up, he stepped up, and I told the church yesterday, one of the first executive orders was, there is only two genders. Male, a man, and female, a woman. Just like that, bang. He just ripped in and did it. Whew! And that's the other point of the new political way, is there's a new political pace. Whew! Political pace. None of this, what we see here in our parliament, it takes months and years. Look at this damn investigation into the fraudulent Waiparere Trust and some of these guys that have been receiving, like Tamaki and Willie Jackson and the Labour government. They were dishing out money, but there was billions of dollars, and that was laundered. It was literally laundering through various government departments and agencies in this country. Now, there's a list I think there's something like about 9 or 10 of them, government agencies and departments that are listed that are actually a party to this cartel of cash being laundered through government agencies. Everybody knows it. We know it. But so what do? They do an internal investigation. This is what Trump, this is another one he smashed. While they do internal investigations, in other words, they get one of their own. Good God. You know, and they'll get a consultant, and they'll pay them, by the way, $500,000 of your money to go in there and to say that they're going to investigate it, but all the time they're having a tink in their glasses in the back room laughing because the decision's already made. Don't worry, we'll look after you because you're looking after me, and I'll be looking after them because they look after those ones, and so that's how it goes. So it's just a great big old pig trough. But it's our money, it's your hard-earned money, taxpayers' money. That should really make a lot of New Zealanders mad right now because it's still happening. I should give you the list soon and read it out to you. You'll be just absolutely, you'll get up and kick the couch, or probably, watch out, cat, get out of the room, anything else, because you'll be so upset that you're out there working hard, having to pay all this tax and trying to meet the demands of a government that just takes, and you're barely getting by, and then find out that the hard-earned money that you put in there that should be going toward our health services, better infrastructure, our education system, helping Kiwis get into homes, dear God, helping Kiwis have jobs and putting Kiwis first, that our money's going, millions are going to helping ethnic people be first. On this list, there are millions of dollars that go to the immigrants that come in. There are millions of dollars to help them fit in and integrate. And that integration, I don't know what it is, because they're certainly not integrating. They are getting their own to be working for their businesses. They're employing their own people in our country. And then you got the cheek of someone like Luxton stands up the other day and talks about overseas investors and wealthy investors now being able to come into this country. And then he stands up today, just recently, not long ago, and talks about this term that I heard, country agnostic. Country agnostic. He said, we're a country agnostic, and I now invite all people in the globe. He's going to have a global glut summit, a global summit on raping, right, and taking, and just, buying our country. Buying our resources, buying our land, buying our businesses, buying your houses, and rent them back to you at an exorbitant price. Or not do that, just hold on to them, and they might come once or twice a year because they don't have to stay here. They have 21 days, they call, and it's a gold visa. It's a gold visa he's made. Here's another. You think that we've got enough with mass immigration already that's pressuring our services and pressuring our hospitals and pressuring the small little country is choking. And now he's making more avenues and ways with these gold visas for rich people to come in and now buy up New Zealand. All I want you to do, Luxon, and this government, is fix New Zealand, not sell New Zealand. So he's out here selling us off. Can you believe this guy? Can you believe this government? Can you believe that Seymour and Peters, well, they're good at this. These guys did it all through the COVID-19 and the opposition. They said nothing. They didn't stand up for the people. Seymour actually joined Ardern, and so did Peters. None of them stood up and said, hold on a moment. And they're still not doing it, because that's why I'm telling you, you cannot vote for any of these people, because our country has been wrecked and ruined and damaged by these people that are currently in there. Now Luxton's trying to sell us to I sometimes feel like we're in the red light area. And the lights on, and we're all the prostitutes selling us off to rich, dirty old men who fly in their rich planes, and they can come in and they've got 21 days and almost be a citizen, but they come in to buy what they see. This is what it's like. It's a blooming great big whorehouse. So Luxon is the actual pimp in Parliament. We've got a big pimp in Parliament. He's pimping us off, prostituting our land, prostituting our resources. And then Winston, he is putting it on the altar, sacrificing the nation's children, keeping RSEs, relationships and sexuality education, in all of our schools, and it's compulsory now. So what's going on? Well, I'll tell you what's going on. It's setting it up so you do the right thing in 2026. Let me just say a few things here, because when you talk about this guy here and he gets together, Trump immediately targets, his administration targets the deep state. The deep state. He immediately targets the deep state. So he calls in another outsider called Elon Musk. I love this. I hope Kiwis, when you vote, I hope you get people from the outside, you know. People like Dave here, or Kane, you know. Over here there's Jenny, over here there's Tanya, there's Mark, there's Campbell. These people are far more, they're brighter than anything I know. I know what they're like. They're bright. They would have made these decisions ages ago. We talked about legislating 2 genders a year and a half ago. I said it actually 2 years ago, I said it. That's what you should do. We all knew about some of the things he's doing. We knew it's common sense, but it wasn't so common in there. Now, deep state, that means that they found out that just about every agency and department in the White House, they're going through it now, is corrupted. And there is literally millions and billions of dollars of taxpayers' money. So here it is again. These people think that you vote them in, and then when they get in, you are their slaves. We're just slaves working in the brick pits, making money, and they are taxing the hell out of us, right? All sorts of angles, even telling the cops to up the ticket giving so we can get more revenue, and every other sneaky way they can get revenue for them so they can spend it on waste, fraudulently, giving it to their friends and their mates, lining their pockets, using that money for things that it should not be used for. But we don't know. It's not your business, you see. That's not your business, and they don't think that you should be involved in the most important business. A lot of people are not interested in politics. That's why you're getting run over. That's why you can't have a house. That's why your business is not doing well, because too many people say, I'm not interested in politics. Just leave, don't even touch it now, go away. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be disengaged, disconnected, uninvolved, and you don't know what's going on, so they are a law unto themselves. There's got to be a people's movement who say, hold on a moment. You know, combined easily, we have more common sense than what's sitting in there. And then you're spending our hard-earned money in ways that are not acceptable. And we need to be able to show them that we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. We're not dumb. And we're no longer going to be doormats. You wipe yourself all over us or just bypass us. They don't listen to the people anymore. Do you hear what I'm saying? They do not listen to you anymore. That there, right there, is treasonous act. They do not listen to the people. They work for us. We don't work for them. The parliament that we have in this country must be brought back into the hands of the people. We must get our parliament back, and our sovereignty must come back out of parliament, and sovereignty of this country must be in the hands of the people, not globalists. They're all globalists that are running this. The next 1.5 years, you have 2 globalists, Prime Minister Luxon and Deputy Prime Minister Seymour are both globalists. So you wait what they're going to do. They're going to be slimy, slippery, and they're going to be cunning and shifty. But they're globalists. And you can already see people are not happy with our government. So I'm telling you, please do not vote for Seymour, don't vote for Peters, and don't vote for Labor. Good grief. A poll tonight has put Labor and Te Pati Māori and the Greens in front of the other three stooges. Now, I know the other three, you don't like them, but you don't go to Labour and that. You don't go and touch Hipkins. He's a criminal. They're all criminals. It's easy. You don't vote for any of them. None of them. Zero. That's in there now. None of them. Don't vote for any of them. Do not vote for anything that's in Parliament now. Do not vote for any of them. I don't care who pops up as a new head or leader of ACT, don't vote for ACT. Te Pati Māori gets a new leader, don't vote it. Labour brings up a new leader, you say, oh, how pretty, don't vote it. National will give you another one, don't vote it. That's what they've been doing every election. They pull a different face, but it's the same dirty old bureaucratic swamp. The only way to get this country moving quickly, swiftly, is to remove the whole lot out and bring in new, fresh blood. People who are honest, people who have integrity, people who believe and have moral values, who will make decisions swiftly. Love it. Okay. Here's something else I want to tell you about. In contrast, when you look at all of this, Luxon, he did 30, I think it was, 30 in his turn, no, 20. Since Luxon came into office, New Zealand Parliament, he's enacted about 20 pieces of legislation for 1 year, or just over a year. 20. In 21 days, right, in contrast, Trump did 130. Please, public, listen to me. Those three frumps down there could not even touch Trump in any way, because that is absolutely disgusting and disgraceful. He also, this is what he did. This is what I was talking about from Ecclesiastes. Sometimes you've got to pull down before you can build up. He didn't just go there and, what I said before, build on the sludge. That swamp has to be drained. He slashed and cut into the deep state where all the bureaucracy was crooked. He cut in right deep behind the scenes where you have agencies and departments and people. Do you see what he's doing? He got Elon Musk in and said to Elon, you take your chainsaw and your machete and go in, and you can start right there with the, he started it in the White House. He's been at the military. He's going to the military. He's going to also go to the education. Musk asked him if he can go and deal with the education. It's all yes, yes, yes. They went into behind the scenes to the public servants. There are literally thousands of them. We got thousands here too. Thousands in Parliament underneath. That's what I'm talking about, deep state. You might be saying, what's deep state? Deep state is all these people who are influencing and making the decisions that are not the politicians. The politicians, because they only voted in 3 years and then they're out again. But these people stay for a long time. And most of them are liberals, lefties, pro-LGBT, anti-family, anti-Christ, and anti-you, anti-New Zealand. And so you've got to move it out. You've got to have tough people do that. They are weak people. You've got to have courageous people to do that, not cowards. They won't touch it. Courageous people. More like the people that you wouldn't even like, people that you wouldn't even expect, people that you wouldn't vote for. That's exactly who you need. Because families depend on strong dads and strong fathers and mothers, right? Strong fathers and mothers depend on strong leaders that are over them to lead courageously, right? To act on what's wrong immediately. No investigations, paying investigators hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it takes 1 year. He did it in half an hour. In New Zealand, it takes months and years because they want to hold their corruption and keep their positions by holding out, barricading themselves in, and the public always do it because you can't be trying to full-time watch and keep sending letters and adding emails. Hurry up, hurry up. What's the decision? How much money was spent? They just hold out. You go for OIAs, what a joke. That's Official Information Act to get information that would tell us where they're spending money and who said what and what did they do in government departments. Most of it now is redacted. Meaning they get a big black pen and they just redact it or it's removed by something. So when you read it, you're reading nothing at the end and just signed by somebody. What's that? That's not transparency. That's why Elon came back into Trump's office and said, you know what? There's a lot of corruption out there. He said, Donald, you're right. Billions of our dollars, of the taxpayers' money from America, is funding transgender operations all around the world. We're funding wars all over around the world. They're funding the left liberals all around the world to be against us. Can you believe that? They're funding other bad people and countries and funding arms to shoot Christians in other countries. Could you imagine being American, that you're a Christian and that some of the money you're earning is helping kill some of your brothers and sisters in another country because your money is giving them the arms? That's not what they wanted to do. This is this terrible evil underneath called deep state or underneath in the beehive. You gotta be serious. You gotta get on board with this. You cannot just go wait for election day and say, oh, I think I'll vote ACT. That's what kills our country, people like you. Or I'll go and vote Winston because he seems to be the only one. He's not the only one. He's out. He's a part of the old. So, he says, listen, it's fraud on a massive scale. It's probably the biggest in history. He's still going through it. Every department is corrupted. So he talked about something called blockchain. He said, we've got to put the blockchain into action, Donald. And Donald probably said, what's that? Blockchain. It is basically simply means that there is an app or some significant technology that's put into parliaments, right, and into all of the departments and agencies where in real time you could have an app on your phone and having a lunch break and say, I'm going to check up and see what this whānau order, where's that money going? You know, I'm going to just check up on there's one here called the Prime Minister's Fund. What the hell is that? So real time means that you can actually go in and see exactly where that money's going, who to, how much. They can't change it. They can't tinker with it. It's called the blockchain. That's what Elon suggested. And I'm suggesting that we should have that in this parliament. Then we got true transparency and real accountability. I want to know, you're working hard. Man, some people are breaking down and breaking up because they're having to work to try and make ends meet without government coming in and taking their grab, right? And what they go is they take that money and then they go and send it to some guy to get some new SUVs and some sports cars and all that sort of stuff and buy some land on the side with stolen money. It's yours. And it was done through NGOs, right? Non-government organisations. They get some funding because they've got to get so much money out, you know. We got 20 million to get out to help people who want to get into a house. All it did was help one guy get a nice mansion. While the rest of them around them are standing in food lines. Unemployed genuinely, can't get work. Living in shacks. This has been going on for a long time. How long are you going to let it go? one more little thing and I'll be finishing up here. I want to take this here. The hallmarks of political change makers. I'm going to rap through it, okay? I wrote a list here. Hallmark of political change makers. These are the change makers. This is the hallmarks, all the characteristics that you should look for. Definite achievements. Right? They've got to have definite achievements, not just gone to university or been some CEO like Luxon. They sit in the chair, don't actually do the work. Everybody else does. And, ex-lawyers or whatever else, everybody's got to do a job. What's so big about that? What's so big about you being a business person? Well, it is big if you're a successful business person. And you've got other good qualities that go with that. Not just a successful, greedy businessman we don't want. Right? We don't want power-hungry people. So definite achievements. They don't just talk. They have delivered real results that's impacted thousands. That's what you look for. Courageous. Courage is a necessity. In this new era, you've got to look for the hallmarks of courage. They take big risks, big enemies, and big challenges without backing down. Now, you are looking at one. I'm not backward. You all know anyway. So, you've got to have the courage like Brian Tamaki. If he doesn't measure up my courage, why would you put him in there? Because I stood for the people on a number of occasions. That's the hallmarks. Trump stood up with courage and got shot at. He didn't cower, he stood up and fight. Love it, eh? Good. High work rate, relentless work ethic. That's important. Talk's cheap. You've got to be doing things and things that people see. Not afraid of backlash and hate. Too many politicians and people want to try and keep themselves clean and stay out of all of that. And so they end up being big compromisers, compromising in everything. But you're going to have people who will attack you. Now, I've got one here. I said it before, career politicians. We don't want them. I don't want any more career politicians. I don't want people who are politicians and have been past politicians and want to be a politician. Now, I put down here a team, not just the party. Forget about the party. Okay, you've got Democrats and Republicans in America. But really, Trump had enemies in his own party. Some of them were worse than the Democrats, right? So you notice that he went outside to build a team of warriors with Elon Musk, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a strong Christian. He's the vice president. Strong family man, strong family values. See, he intentionally picked people with fruit, with achievements. Obviously, they've got it. Not just some person that's rocked up on a party list like in New Zealand. Hi, what's your name? Kitty Allen. You know. What's your name? And you can put all the slugs. Grant Robertson. And they just keep coming through the list. All the weird and really weird. Right? And in this party, they actually choose people who will not be afraid to tear down the system. Then rebuild something fresh, new, and strong. That's what you've got to do. They don't add layers of corruption to the bureaucracy already there, and I talked about that, and get rid of the globalist influence. One of the first things I do is take us out of the WHO, WEF, and the UN, and out of the Paris Accord, and out of every other thing like that. And I would trust the fact is that we are a self-determining, self-sufficient, very, very smart, well-heeled people who know how to make this country wealthy, healthy, and work again. Amen. Oh, I would say drill, baby, drill too. I wouldn't be waiting around like our mate, what's his name, Shane Jones. I'll be just taking a team down there and start opening up wells, start tapping the oil that's in this country, start going to the reserves of trillions of dollars worth of the best coal in the world in the South Island, and we would use our resources well to energize this country so that every person has a job. Not one person will be without a job. In 12 months, if I was me, I'd make this commitment that every New Zealander will be employed. Yeah, easy. Okay, disruptions, not conformists. Disruptors. People are not afraid to stand up in the middle of something and say, no, that's not right. It ain't going to happen. That's like that, you know. Not sit there and say, I don't agree with that, and then talk on the toilet. Did you agree with that? No, I didn't agree with that. Yeah, but anyway, that's how it goes. And you just sit in the seat and just grind your teeth. No, you've got to be able to stand up and interrupt. Yeah, our parliaments, you might say they do that. No, that's just misbehaving. And it's unacceptable behaviour because they don't know what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing. That's why they need people like us down there to give parental supervision to the playground. Tearing down broken systems and rebuilding them. All right. Now follow the money. Okay. Here's some little bit of wasteful spending. I'm going to read this to you because I want you to hear it. Just bear with this. 136 million spent every year on our annual refugee quota for 1,500 individuals. That's about $90,670 per refugee. What? I read 136 million a year for what? For Kiwis first? No. For young New Zealand families struggling to try and get a house and their two little kids the right clothes and shoes to wear and to get to school to pay the school fees. $136 million would go a long way to help a lot of young Kiwi families. And man, that's one I'd slash straight away. Because if your own are not doing well, why would you spend this on people coming from some other country? I'm not denying the fact that people want to come to our country to make it, but when our own are not making it, it is criminal for any government to be doing this. Well, okay. In addition, 80.797 million. That's $80,797,100,000 is spent on the settlement and integration of refugees and other migrants. Another pause. Almost 90 million spent a year on what? Integrating? I haven't seen integration. I've seen them build their temples, their mosques, their shrines. They're having their pagan parades for months long. Months long. We only have one Christmas day for our Christian faith, one Easter weekend, and people are moaning about it, want to stop it. But Ramadan for the Islam goes for a month. Diwali for the Indians for a month. Chinese New Year goes on and on. They're all celebrating their pagan festivals. And we are paying for this? And they call it integration. You're going ahead of me, I suppose. 4.5 billion for Climate Emergency Response Fund. That's a hoax. So that means there's 4.5 billion. How many of you could do with a little bit of that to help you along your way with your family? 4.5 billion. How many of us could use that for startup business money for young New Zealand couples, helping young Māori couples, helping young European couples, helping genuine Kiwis get into a home? What if you went and did a deal with a bank with that 4.5 billion, never mind the climate hoax, and advance many New Zealand families into home ownership? 4.5 billion, that's a lot of money. 1.3 billion, here we go, to support climate change. There's another one for this climate change fraud. This is our government right now that's been doing it. Mitigation in foreign countries. What? So that's not even doing it, it's not even for us. it's actually sent to another country. That's $1.3 billion of taxpayer. Your money going off. That sounds like this whole USA aid. It's the same thing. They're finding that they've unearthed this, and this is what we're doing. This is what I'm doing right now. We are breaking it open, exposing the fact is that this government for years, this parliament for decades, has been sending some of your hard-earned money overseas to something that is useless and that is false and that is a hoax. Climate change mitigation in a foreign country. You've got to be kidding me. $4 million spent on the Oranga Wellbeing Project to combat Cody dieback disease. That's a tree, a Cody tree. Dieback disease in this Cody tree. Well, okay, I can understand that, but which involved playing whale songs to Cody trees. Whale songs, $4 million for a little wee boom box with whales going. I could have done that for $100,000 to a Cody tree. That's a whale. That's our blue whale. Can I have 100 million, please? What the heck? It's as bad as making Taranaki Maunga, the mountain Taranaki, making it a real person like you and me. What the hell's wrong with this parliament? Yeah. 4 million. How many families could have been helped right there with their kids into school fees and clothes? Do you want some more ridiculous? 2.2 million in 22 for gender affirming care. 2.2 million for a confusion that is false. That's why this government should have long time ago legislated two genders. Now, not doing that, it's costing us not just 2.2 million, it's costing us billions of dollars since it started. Believe me, the money that's going into the LGBTQI pride movement is horrendous. You're basically working for a sexual perversion, people. And you're financing their perversion to get stronger and stronger in this country because you're paying them. You're allowing that money you earn, some of that money you earn, a lot of that money you earn, right, to help the LGBTQ do transgender surgeries and gender-affirming genital surgeries annually. There's 14 of them. 337 million spent by MBIE in 21 across 3 DEI projects. This is this diversity, equity, and inclusion rubbish. Can you believe this? 11.7 million from COVID-19 recovery was allocated to a private green school in Taranaki, probably given to our friend the Maunga. Because he's a person in Taranaki, he's probably got a green school on the side of his mountain. $640,000 spent on consultants. See, you should have been a consultant. Consultants took most of the money in 1 year I saw there a while back. What's a consultant? Somebody goes along and says, thinks for somebody else who hasn't got any idea. So this fellow says, I got an idea. And he says, good, I'll pay for that. And he says, why don't you put that over there instead of there? He says, thank you, that's 500,000 for you. And another consultant says, that's not ridiculous. All right, we'll give you some examples. 20 million was wasted in uneaten meals being thrown out within the 325 million free school lunch program. So 20 million was wasted in uneaten meals thrown out within the 325 million free school lunches program. 325 million. What is the government doing feeding kids? I didn't vote you in to be feeding my children. I feed my kids. I'm called a parent. How ridiculous that you have to be shelling out $350 million in a year to feed your children. This ain't a third world country. fast becoming one. That's crazy. 26 million spent on rebranding for government agencies. 26 million. Change the name from Apostles Academy to Tamaki Live. Tamaki Live from Apostles Academy to Tamaki Live, $26 million to rebrand. That's what I need to do that rebrand, please. 15 billion spent on branding for New Zealand's Polytechnic mega merger. See, that and it collapsed. So it collapsed. That's $15 million. It could have helped a lot of other people. You add up all the millions and the billions here, we could have had most Kiwis on their way to their prosperity, building successful businesses, so we wouldn't have to have mass immigration, getting them in all here, flooding our country. We could have been making our own families rich with all of this, just this. Look at this, 1 million spent by the Department of Conservation on a new logo. 1 million on a logo? 100 million of COVID money. Yeah, I'd like to know where all that went. 100 million's nothing of what they printed. Unused MIQ facilities. Unused. So they spent it building something like this and they didn't use it. So I just wrote it off, 100 million. What could you do with $1 million? 100 million? Well, you imagine 100 young couples can put $1 million down in their home. No, there's nothing wrong with that, because this 100 million was wasted. It wasn't used, so just you get 100 million and burned it. But if I gave it to 1 million couples, 100 couples and gave them $1 million, look at that, they're in. 50 million spent on legal costs for the MIQ. That's the same thing up in the lawsuits from stranded Kiwis. Oh my goodness. 1 billion spent on Three Waters reform that has now been scrapped. So $1 billion, $1 billion because a lot of people wanted to have control of the water and it didn't make it, so 1 billion gone. I could have solved that without even spending $1. Yeah. And both sides would have been happy. 90 million spent on Let's Get Wellington Moving. Ook. I don't want Wellington moving at all. 90 million for a transport plan that has now been shelved. So again, let's get 9 people and give them $1 million each. 90. What a waste, 90 people. Give them $1 million each. Get them into a house. That's the same thing. Get the kids school uniforms. Pay their fees or whatever. Pay your bills. Better than this. It's just money being burned. 28 million spent on Auckland Light Rail, no tracks laid. The money went on consultants. I told you, you should be a consultant. 228 million spent on a consultant. Man, I'm a sharp guy. I could be a good consultant. What sort of consultant would you be, Brian? Anything. Just whatever you need consultation on, because the government hands it out to anybody as a consultant for whatever, and you get millions of dollars in your hand, and what you consult about never happens. Approximately 12.8 million spent on New Zealand police each year, 140 times diversity liaison officers. See, this government's pandered to the Pride movement, and it's costing the taxpayer not millions, billions. It's costing us billions, people. First day, if you had got me in there last year and we had the chance to vote me in, I would have put the 2 gender legislation straight away. And I would have put the machete into a lot of other things as well. You missed out. You missed out. Approximately 1 million on Rainbow, well, there it is, Rainbow 101, online inclusion training for New Zealand police staff. My goodness. No wonder the police ran to the first pedestrian crossing that we painted over that was rainbow. We had our whole squads and, paddy wagons and SAS and the firing squad, and everybody turned up. Meantime, people were upset in the public who've been asking police and are waiting for about 6 months or more because they got mugged in their house and got hurt, and police haven't turned up yet they all ran down to a rainbow crossing that got a good coating of paint over top of it. That is crazy. Total above, and that's only a little bit of it, 7.61 billion. There you go. Okay, that's a little bit of tonight, what I wanted to just open up to you. You might say, how does this, what do we do now? Well, it's simple. You've got knowledge. Knowledge is power. And you start talking it. Start telling your friends. Start moving around, because it's important that people know exactly what's going on. I was thinking, and I'm done, but I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking, you'd imagine that if people in this country really put value, real value, on their children, just their children. And I was really stoked, and you all knew about yesterday when I talked about the RSCs now have been confirmed that they are still in the schools and are worse than before, and now they're compulsory, and every principal, every state school and integrated state school has to actually teach this sexual perversion to 5-year-olds and up. I was thinking, if parents in this country really cared for their kids, wouldn't there be a instant reaction? Like, I'm not talking about a protest. I'm talking about a major mass of swarm of people. I'm talking about 500,000 people should have gone to Parliament and said, you change this, or we'll do what that guy said the other day, we'll burn your Parliament down. You touch our children and you target our kids' innocence with this creepy stuff, we would have shut you down. But that's what's happened. Every principal got it. Now, a lot of these teachers I know don't agree with it. A lot of these principals wouldn't agree with it. But then, why would you go along with it and suffer in silence in your classroom as you leave a diversity officer who's paid $1 million a year between them all in these schools to ensure that this sexual graphics, sexual pornography is given to these kids and shown to them? Why would you do that? I think the teachers should rally together that don't want like this, and the principals. Take the step to say to this government, we want that withdrawn. Because the three of you are inadequate and cowardly about taking the RSCEs out. We're demanding you take it out, otherwise we're going to shut your schools down. Shut the schools down. Shut the schools down, let the kids, put that on the government's hands. All the police won't like it because the kids will start driving around again and breaking into shops and all sorts. But why should we be allowing these politicians to sacrifice our children on the altar, right, of ego, power, and their pride? Okay, thank you very much. Would you like to stand with me? And I'd like to pray. I'd like to pray for you that's watching. And I want to pray for you that you would actually start to believe that we can do something about our country. We want our country great. We want our flag to fly high. We want our people to be one. Father in heaven, I pray today, or this evening, thank you so much that you are with us. Just like in America, and Europe and Hungary, South America and Argentina and many other countries, They are finding now a revolution. They are reviving everything that's right and good. But it's taken risk. It's taken courage. It's taken people who are going to go against the grain of what they've always done and how they've always done it. Has to change. And I think out there in this country now, many Kiwis, I believe you agree with what I said. With most of it anyway. You had enough. Well, let's join together. Let's do something. Let's roll on through to 2026 and make a difference for our country. Thank you, Lord, and bless you at home, wherever you are watching, and share some elements of what was spoken tonight. Thank you all. God bless you. Have a great night.